But first, should the UK cut spending on foreign aid? The number 0207 862 2222, that's the number you need. You may feel very strongly about this one indeed, and I'll speak to you in just a minute about it. Do call, because this is a really big subject at the moment. According to the latest figures, we currently spend around £15 billion on aid overseas. We spend it on various things, including food, military equipment, training, and even medical help. But we are expected to cut our funding on global vaccinations projects, partly because of a reduction in overall foreign aid spending, and partly because we're spending more on supporting asylum seekers here in the UK. So I want to know, do you think that's a move in the right direction? This all comes, of course, as President Donald Trump effectively shut down the US Agency for International Development, stopping spending on foreign aid programmes. So should we follow in his footsteps? Do you think that would make Britain great again? Or do you think we do have a responsibility to help those around the world who are worse off than we are? Really looking forward to your calls on this one. Tessa, what do you feel about it?
I feel profoundly depressed that we're even asking the question. It's worth bearing in mind, during the COVID pandemic, we changed the law so we could give less internationally. I think it was pegged at 0.7% of our GDP that we gave overseas under Gordon Brown, and that was then rescinded. And one would have hoped that the Labour Party, when they came into power, would have rebooted what we previously deemed to be a legal necessity. Why is this so important? Well, the world's biggest philanthropist was America. And they have just done an enormous U-turn, which is, as we speak, threatening lives. People halfway through a medical course can't now get that second hit that they so desperately need. This is playing out in real time as we speak. And do you know who'll step into the vacuum? Who'll step in to be the global helping hand? China. We are going to move away from the democratic countries providing the narrative, the pathway for developing countries to find success. But I wonder if,
when people watching at home heard you say, you know who'll step in? China. And you imagine that they might go, actually, they might have thought, good, let China pay for it. Good, let China pay, let China fund this, because charity begins at home. And lots of people, we're talking about old age pensioners in this country being worried about heating or eating, and we are, and I've spoken to many on this show and all over the place. If we're talking about that, can we afford to, you might even say, indulge in this programme of foreign aid, Mike?
I mean, already the United States defend the free world. They defend the Western world. That's it. Nobody else puts much into defence except they do. Why should they then feel responsible? I saw somebody the other night saying South Africa might now collapse as a nation because of the withdrawal of US aid from South Africa. Look, you've got to say to yourself, America can't do everything. The West can't do everything. And 1 minute we're saying, oh, let's not remake that song because it doesn't show African countries in a good light. They have to stand up for themselves and be self-sufficient. The next we're saying, bung them loads of aid because we're the West and we're supposed to be kind and gentle. You can't have both.
All right, let's talk to John on the line in Wiltshire. John, how do you feel about the programme of foreign aid? What do you make of it?
Right, 4 points. I don't recall anybody from any of the parties actually mentioned anything about overseas aid, and it should be cut when they can't even afford heating for pensioners and put up the NI for so they can't employ people. And Labour's always bleating on about how skint this country is after the Tories made a right mess of it, and then you get loads of adverts on TV asking for £3 a month. So, I mean, you can't have everything your own way.
So you're saying, John, if you keep hearing about the £22 billion black hole, then how can we possibly be affording to give money abroad? Plus the fact that we're in colossal debt already, in addition to the £22 billion black hole. On the other hand, John, isn't there this thing about moral responsibility, some other countries being in really dire straits, and a kind of obligation to help out, and also maybe to kind of spread things like vaccines, which will make the world healthier? We'll all benefit from that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but if you look at all the adverts that are asking for money for overseas aid, and then if you consider that those adverts are probably being sort of aired on every other programmes in different countries, how much money is going to these African countries, i.e., And where does the money actually go to? Does it go to the governments,
Totally agree.
which is probably corrupt?
Well, in some
Or does it
instances,
go
yes,
to-
and
or
sometimes
does
it goes
directly go to
direct.
the
Well, sometimes it
people?
goes directly to charities and directly to local organisations. Sometimes to governments. Tessa, you're sitting so
think-
uncomfortably.
Yeah, I think we're kind of missing the broader point here, which is increasingly over the past few decades, there's been a realisation we're global. We're linked up, whether we like it or not, globally. And we see it on the shores of Calais. We see it in the climate change, which you can no longer deny. It's very peculiar what's going on climatically. And actually, if we want a joined up response, we have to build relationships with countries, not just like the USA, who are rich and developed, but with developing countries. That improves our soft
totally
power,
agree.
political power, our trading capacity.
Trading
this is global
power.
Britain. Remember, this is the unleashed from the chains of
Trading
Brexit.
power will
Right,
make
we'll
us-
leave that for
Global
just a
powerhouse.
second. We have to
Trading power.
pause there to take a quick break, but we'll take more of your calls in just a moment. And I really do want your calls on this one. Do you think Britain should stop our spending on foreign aid? Do you think we should follow in the footsteps of Donald Trump? Or do you feel as if we have a moral responsibility to help those on the planet who are worse off than we are? 0207 862 2222. That's the number. Let's start with Stephen on the line in Suffolk. Morning to you, Stephen. Hi.
Good morning, Vanessa.
Hello. Where are you on foreign aid, Stephen? Should we be paying?
Oh, no, we shouldn't. No.
Explain
Okay.
why. Why not?
Explain why. Right, we've got China. We've got India. Right? They've got space race going on. Why should we give them money?
No,
All
no.
this foreign aid that we give, and by the way, it's not with a V, it's a PH in Stephen. We should be giving all this money to us pensioners. I'm 71 years old.
Right.
Yeah? This money should be going to us, not to these people in foreign countries who have all these governments that are, well, taking the mick and taking the money for themselves. That shouldn't happen. Yeah? It's as
Let's
simple as
bring
that.
Tessa in. Tessa, is he right?
Stephen, I wonder, do you consider yourself just a citizen of Suffolk, or are you an English citizen, a British citizen, a global citizen? Where does accountability stop? After all, we were the first country to industrialise, therefore our impact on the climate proportional per head is, I think, something like 160 times higher than the average Ethiopians. Likewise, we had a thumping great empire, which impacted on many poorer countries'
Spread wealth
ability,
around the globe.
which impacted on many countries' ability to govern themselves. Leadership has taken much longer. They weren't released from the yoke of Britishness until,
make
in many
countries.
cases, after the Second World War. So where do we say we're washing our hands with you? And do you think in the long term that's going to deliver for us as a global player out with the EU?
By the way. Okay? It's as simple as that. Our money should stay in this country. It shouldn't go to foreign countries. Simple. Let them sort themselves out. We have a debt in this country, as simple as that.
Well,
Yeah?
but the
our
question that
country
Tessa
should be
asked,
our country,
Stephen, the question that
our
Tessa asked you that I
country
thought was
should be looking
interesting.
after us.
Stephen, give me a chance, my darling. Tessa asked you an interesting question. She said, do you see yourself as a citizen of Suffolk or Great Britain or the world? How do you see yourself? What was the answer to that?
I see myself as English, and I see myself as this country. I don't see myself as a world country, yeah, and I don't care about all this giving money to foreigners.
All right,
and
thank you
giving
for the
money to these
call,
people.
and we appreciate it. That was an honest answer to your question.
was.
Let's talk to Carol in Shropshire. Hi, Carol. Thanks for ringing. Morning.
Oh, good morning. I am also a pensioner.
Yes. And how do you feel about foreign aid?
Well, I was disgusted with Stephen. I'm a pensioner of 79, and I've agreed with the government regarding pensioners. I've just come back from holiday. You kept going on about pensioners, Vanessa. I've just come back from holiday, and the majority of people out there on holiday are pensioners, walking with walking sticks, wheelchairs, you name it.
Right.
They're pensioners. I came back and I said to my husband, I don't feel like cooking. Let's go out for a meal. We went into town and all the restaurants were full of pensioners.
Well said,
So
Carol.
don't tell me that pensioners are poor.
Some are.
Well,
Now go on
think
to
it's
the
fair
aid.
to, it's fair,
Aid is so important.
it's fair to say that some are and some are not, isn't it?
the majority
Some
are.
really are struggling
The
along, and some are not.
majority are okay. I could give you a lot of instances where people have played the game, but I won't go into that. As far as aid is concerned, am I talking or are you talking? I
You're
get
talking.
confused because I'm in mute.
You're talking.
As far as aid is concerned, it's absolutely imperative. And yes, we do make mistakes. That's inevitable. However, we've helped so many women in the world to move on. We've helped so many people live. We've helped so many people with water. So many people with health. We were the ones that invaded these countries. We were the ones that made them poor. If we can't give back what we've taken away in making them healthier, more democratic, etc., we'll have the world of Putins, and now we've got a world of Trump that's going the
Do you know
same way.
what's so wonderful about Carol? Just 1 second. Is what you hear springing out from her mellifluous voice is the milk of human kindness.
Yes, but how much kindness is shown to this country? For instance, there are 5 or 6 countries in the world which are better off than we are. Why don't America send us money? Why don't China send us money? Why isn't India now sending us money instead of us sending money to India? These are...
You're such a Grinch. Me, only me. You can't have any. You're like a child in a playground.
All right, Tessa.
No, I'm not all right. I'm really upset, actually,
is
by
a-
this. Only me, only I matter. Me and my little England brick out the rest of the world. Who do we think we are?
It was a serious question. We don't get money from countries richer than us, but we are still giving money to countries poorer than us. And the old argument about, oh, well, if you give money to other countries, it helps their citizens to stay there and not come to this country. Utter nonsense. Why are so many people coming to this country?
I'm wondering whether what might make much more sense than any of this is if we, the voters, had a say in the spending of foreign aid.
Yeah.
If we could say what we prioritise and what we value, rather than this feeling that money that we need and could do with is being kind of distributed and we don't quite know why or what to.
Or we could just say we don't want to, because on top of the foreign aid budget, we send farmers around the world another £506 million whilst we're punishing farmers in this country.
Right,
that's an outrage.
Let's go to Mavis. Mavis is on the line in Essex. Gosh, we're hearing deeply passionate views, very much opposed to one another. Mavis, what do you think about this?
Good morning.
Hi.
I think that we should be highly selective with foreign aid,
Right.
not just send it as we are sending. I think
Very
a
good
few
point.
of your people were quite right. Foreign aid's being sent to India, but they're sending rockets up and they've got people starving in their streets. There's no logic, there's no compassion, there's no reason for this. And I think it would be a good idea to stop foreign aid altogether and then take a look at where it's going, what
agree.
it's going for, who is actually benefiting. But I think equally, in this country, we need to sort ourselves out. We've got some terrible things going on in this country, and although one of your callers said, you know, she's a pensioner, she's been abroad, she's done this, and the restaurants are full of pensioners, I would argue with that. And I think it's very sad that we're sending money to places that really don't need it. I think it's quite shocking.
I think it's a good idea to kind of start again and begin and show and have transparency. Then at least we'd know, and at least we'd be able to
There might be
have
new
some
areas of
say
the
in it.
world that need the money that didn't need it 30
very
years
quickly,
ago. You know?
the reason why we're discussing this is actually what's imperiled is a massive child vaccination scheme which has
That could be
saved the
protected.
lives of
That could be
1.1
protected.
billion children.
Everybody agrees that that's a very worthy cause.
Absolutely.
And on Vanessa's theory, examine that and say yes, but examine some of the others and say no. It's as simple as that.
Let's bring Mike in. He's in Dorset. Thanks for ringing, Mike. Morning to you.
Hi, good morning. The idea of sending foreign aid, we could send foreign aid, but we could send it to our British embassy in the country. That country would have to send the representative to come to the British embassy with a document to say, this is what we want to do, and then we could pass on the money. We could then check to see that it has been done. If it's not been done, then their money could be cut. So the country
You mean a sort of close network of supervision, observation, channeled through our embassies in whichever country to make sure that, you know, administrations aren't being corrupt, it's not being wasted, it isn't some ridiculous scheme that nobody in this country supports at all. I mean, that sounds like a pretty smart idea,
To
Mike.
be fair,
I think so.
That's already done. I think moving the international foreign aid budget into the Foreign Office and so forth, it means it's less effective the way in which it's distributed on the ground. But there is generally accountability. For example, this vaccination scheme is done in cahoots with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation,
And we're all
etc.
supporting that. We're all supporting
I
that.
know, but I think the worry is that there's sort of random spurious headlines where a right-wing paper, I'm going to name the Telegraph in this instance, discovers that, a little bit of the money, a tiny drop of the money went on a cycle scheme in somewhere like Malaysia. And that is enough to trigger this disproportionate response.
But I don't know if it is disproportionate.
No.
If you're really struggling financially in this country, if you can't get an appointment to see your GP, if you're on an NHS waiting list and you're literally in pain every single day, and then you read that money has been wasted on a cycling scheme in Malaysia, even if it's hypothetical, then it doesn't feel as if it's a tiny drop of wasted money. It feels like a personal affront to you, your family, your life, and you just think, hang on, wait, did
totally
I ever
agree.
sign up to this? Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a subject that really does
And
get
also,
people
should
very
we only
riled
send
up.
money to countries where we know there is a stable political framework? Because often they go to countries which are ruled by dictatorships, and therefore dictatorships decide what to do with the money, and very little of it goes to the people who could be starving that country. It all seems to go to the people who run the country.
It'll be easy to know that we're sending money to Gaza.
Thank you so much for your call.